Olá, boa tarde. Olá, boa tarde. Boa tarde. Boa tarde a todos. Eu tô entrando aqui um pouquinho antes do Fat Burning Man. Hoje a nossa live vai ser em inglês, tá? Mas fiquem para ouvir a voz do Abel James. Ele tem uma voz linda, uma voz de radialista. E eu vou introduzir um pouquinho ele para vocês aqui. Eu sou mega fã dele e eu tô muito feliz que ele aceitou conversar comigo hoje aqui. Eu vou explicar, eu vou dar as boas-vindas a ele, né? Obviamente em inglês, porque ele é americano. E o nome dele é Abel James, tá? É super legal ouvi-lo falar de saúde. Eu vou falar aqui em inglês já no começo da introdução, que eu ouço Abel James desde 2014, tá? Quando estava fazendo essa transição da medicina tradicional para essa medicina mais dentro de saúde, eu estava procurando muitas respostas, né? E dentro dessas perguntas, dentro dessas respostas, né? Dentro dessas minhas perguntas por saúde, o que eu fazia muito era ouvir podcast. E um dos podcasts que eu ouvia era o do Abel James, o Fat Burning Man. Isso mais ou menos em 2014, 2015. E eu, assim, aprendi muito com ele, sabe? Então, assim, é uma felicidade muito grande em ouvi-lo aqui junto hoje comigo. É uma honra realmente estar com ele. E a gente vai falar um pouquinho sobre, claro, forma física, sobre longevidade, sobre o que essa questão da pandemia está fazendo com a gente, né? Por que está mudando tanto o padrão, o que a gente pode esperar, né, em relação ao futuro, em relação aí à pandemia e essa mudança de comportamento da população. E eu vou pedir para o Abel James contar um pouquinho da história dele, porque vocês vão ver que ele é um sobrevivente. Ele é um sobrevivente de um incêndio. E ele e a esposa quase morreram intoxicados por monóxido de carbono. Então ele tem uma história muito interessante para contar pra gente, como é que eles fizeram para ressurgir e voltarem à saúde, tá? Então é bem interessante a história dele. Eu vou baixar o vídeo, vou tentar colocar legendas, porque eu não sou boa nessas questões de tecnologia. Se alguém puder me ajudar, me ajude aí, porque eu acho que vai ser um papo que vale muito a pena de vocês conseguirem ter uma legenda depois e ouvir em português, né? Pelo menos conseguir entender o que ele vai falar pra gente. Então eu vou colocar, ele já tá aqui presente, tá? Que eu ouvi. Então eu vou colocar ele aqui pra dentro da nossa live. E ele tá entrando. Tô super feliz de estar falando com ele hoje. Nem sei se ele me conhece direito, gente. Hi, Abel!
Hello, hello. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Oh, I'm so honored to have you. I was telling my audience that I used to listen to your podcast back in 2014 when I was transitioning to this kind of medicine that I practice today. And
wow.
Yeah, that's right. And you are one of the persons that I think that is responsible for my transitioning. You know, because I don't know if you know, I'm a general surgeon, and and I practice medicine for more than 20 years already. And back in that time, 6-7 years ago, I was trying to be a little bit disappointed with the medicine that I was practicing. You know, I was not healing anyone. I was just trying to help, but in fact, I was not really helping anyone. And then first I was sick. I was, in fact, I was in my divorce, and stress, cortisol levels, everything was in the sky. And I said, oh, I have to change something in my life so I can live longer and I can live better. And I was listening, I was commuting to work and listening to your podcast almost every day. And I listened to your voice. I recognize it Anywhere. That's right.
Now
That's
I
right.
wish I spoke Portuguese.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe someday. Portuguese is not
Someday.
an easy language to learn. This, unfortunately, is not that
Beautiful
easy.
though.
Yeah, it's a little bit similar to Spanish. If you speak Spanish, we can understand most of the times. I
Sure.
used to live in Barcelona when
Okay.
I did a fellowship in gastroenterology there back in 1999. So
Wow.
Spanish is something very easy for us. But
Yeah.
Portuguese is not an easy language. So I'm very honored to have you today. Thank you
Oh,
very
thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank you.
honored as well. I'm very honored.
I'm very happy. Abel, I was listening some things that you were saying about your podcast. I was listening some episodes today and trying to figure out what we could help the people the most. And first of all, I think that if you tell us your story, is going to be something that is going to help a lot of people, because I knew that you are a survivor. Am I right?
Yes, to some degree.
Yeah, there's something that happens with a fire, right?
Yes, 11 years ago, I lost everything in an apartment fire. And that's when my health really tanked too.
Interesting. And how did you manage to detox from what happens to you?
One step at a time. You know, when you read someone's bio, it sounds like everything happens all at once, right? But in life, it's really just taking one day after the next, especially when you're up against something that's traumatic in one way or another. But I think for me anyway, when I lost everything in the fire, I had just gone to school, taken on loans, and just paid them off. So for the first time in my life, I was happily broke, but now I had nothing. You know, it's like literally just the clothes on my back. And when I looked in the mirror, I realized that the advice that I'd been following, because I had great health insurance for the first time in my life too, when I was working in that job and paying off my loans. And so I was following that typical Western doctor's advice, which was to avoid dietary cholesterol, eat very low fat, eat like as many whole grains as you can, and keep exercising more and eating less. And at the time I was running, 20, 30 miles a week, but my health, he had put me over the course of about 18 months on a half dozen different prescription meds, including, even though I wasn't depressed, an antidepressant to help me sleep. And because I had such great insurance and it cost so much money, I assumed that I was following the right advice. But when I lost everything in the fire, I looked at myself in the mirror, in my early 20s, and I have this, fat, inflamed face, this big puffy gut. I'm very pale. I look at myself, and it's just very clear that it's not working. And I'm like, okay, buddy, let's make this a project. There's something wrong.
Yeah, there's something wrong. I am doing something that is not okay. In fact, you were doing everything that everybody says you to do, right?
That's right. And the interesting part is that I was doing, and I sense you are as well, an overachiever, the type A personality who just keeps going, And so it was because I was following this advice so well and so hard and working so hard to try to be healthy that I got sick before my friends who just were out drinking and not caring all the time, kind of doing what felt right to them. And I started to ignore what felt right to me. And because of that, I was hungry all the time. I had heartburn. I was overweight, just like so many typical problems. And they were the ones that we were trying to prevent by following that doctor's advice. So anyway, long story short, my mom actually became a holistic nurse practitioner and studied herbalism after me and my brother were allergic to pretty much all antibiotics. So we were kind of... so we rebelled against that, got sick, and then I rebelled against Western medicine, and the fat came off, the high triglycerides, the high blood pressure, the issues with my thyroid, and a lot of other just things that I was having problems with, once again, in my early 20s. I was young, I should have been healthy.
Young.
So that pretty much, that cleared up so fast, and I got the body composition that I really wanted so quickly that it made me mad enough to start up a blog about it, write a short book and guide about it, and then start up my podcast, Fat Burning Man. Never, really thinking it would go where it went. But I was so happy to start there.
Tell everyone, because Abel James is a #1 selling author in New York Times, and your podcast is, if not the one of the most important podcasts that we have in the world. Now I'm starting to do my podcast, but I'm inspired by you and others. But you have the podcast that is one of the best ones in many ways, I think, because you mix a lot of subjects, all of them related to medicine, but you have very good audience too, and you interview very nice people too. So how could you do that in that time? Because we didn't have this kind of online audience. It was not so spread like it is nowadays. How did you do that?
It's interesting because I've been, since I was 8 years old, busking and playing music just on the street for tips, and then taking bigger gigs and all of that. So I kind of see a lot of this from the artist or performer's point of view. And I also, just by virtue of kind of working in turning the knobs in audio production for a long time as a personal interest in running PA, like basically theater gigs and whatever, you have to learn how to turn the knobs and plug things in and microphones. So I had an unnatural advantage to some degree, right? Like coming from the world of music into, like, when people say, hey, you should start up a podcast, for someone who is only in the world of health, that can be intimidating. There is a learning curve to all of this, right? But at the time, I was playing 300 plus live shows a year in Austin, Texas, and all around North America. And so it was me really shifting from that. And I stopped doing all those live gigs and put that energy into the podcast, blogging, writing books, connecting with people. And so it was really that shift that made the biggest difference. Because at the live shows, it was mostly music, a little bit of comedy, and, a few hundred people tops would be there. What I realized online is that the amount of people who you can connect with is really endless. It's infinite.
Yeah. And I think that maybe you are one of the people that you dive. When you want to do something, you go to the bottom, something like that. Yeah. Oh, I am going to extract every juice from this fruit, something like that. Everything I'm gonna, there are some people that are like that. If you take a pen, you transform that pen in something that everybody wants, for example. I think that it's something that is born with you. So you can't make this. You are or you are not. I think.
I don't know. Sometimes a lot of people, when they see a singer or someone playing music, or they see someone at the top of their game and whatever it is, they're just like, look at all that talent. But what I see is look at all of the time and the work that they put in for so long. Look at this. Look at the skills. Like a lot of, even just using your voice, right? Like when I was young, I was very shy. I was soft spoken, and I have a low voice anyway. And so when I first started doing performance and singing and theater, no one could hear me. And they're like, listen, bub, you need to learn technique. You need to learn how to speak correctly, because if you don't, no one will hear you. You'll blow your voice out. So at like a relatively young age, I learned how to speak and project, be heard, be understood to a large degree from people in the back of the theater, and also control your breath. And these are a lot of things that if you don't understand those things and you try to live stream all day on Instagram, it's going to be a rough day, but if you have those skills and you've worked on technique, like I think I'm doing 12 or 13 over the course of 2 days. Some of them are more than 2-hour interviews. I'm just like in a burst right now. And like anyone who's at a loud party knows, if you don't use correct technique when you're speaking, you're going to blow your voice out. And I tend to see a lot of things like that. And And yes,
I
there's
have
some
this
degree of
problem
talent.
because I'm
Yeah,
used to lecture to a lot of people. Now it's not
right.
happening here. I travel all over the country lecturing and talking to a lot of people, and
Yep.
I have a strong voice, but I put too much, you know, and in the end
Yeah,
of the day I just can't talk sometimes. And just, oh no, please don't say. I have two kids. I have two kids. One is
that'll do it too.
yeah, one is 11 and the other one is 14. And
Oh,
when I
wow.
get home, I say, don't talk to mama. Don't talk to mama. I
Right.
can talk. I can talk. Because I talk too much. But I know that I do it in the wrong way. I should study more how to put my voice, because
Yeah.
I put it too much.
It's almost like
But
posture, right? Like if you stand like
yeah, the
this all
posture,
day,
yeah.
all hunched, same thing.
Yeah. And when I talked to you, I told you that I would like to talk about the challenge we are having now during the pandemic. About, I don't know in America, but here in Brazil, we see people going crazy. Now they are very
Yeah.
stressed, too stressed, watching TV, just bad news. And they are eating too much and drinking too much.
Yes.
Like if there isn't another day. I'm going to live the day and don't worry about the rest. Are the Americans the same way?
Yes. Yeah. To a
Yes.
large degree. You know, everyone's handling this in their own way, but what's so interesting to me is all of the exact same things that are happening in every country across the world. Like I coach clients in the UK and Australia. I talk to people in Thailand, you know, Brazil, just all over the place. And to me, the similarities are very unsettling, you know, and it's
Uh-huh.
perfectly natural, I think, what a lot of people are doing, the way they're responding, which is escapism, right? If we're not able to
Yeah,
go outside,
escapism.
if we're not able to go and, like, I should be dozens of speaking gigs and performances deep this year, like you, but it's zero. You know, I have like less than a half dozen hugs from my friends and family, right? We're
Uh-huh.
all kind of going through that together. So I think because we're all so uncomfortable and we have this feeling that it's getting worse instead of better, we are all in our own way trying to find that escape. And some people use overeating, some people use drugs, some people use video games and social media. All these things take you away from going within and dealing with your problems, you know, and really
Yeah,
working
the
through them.
emotions,
Um,
right?
yeah.
Face the emotions.
And I think part of that is because we all thought and were told that this would be temporary, right? And
Uh-huh.
so, like, okay, we'll just take an extra 2 weeks vacation. We're all just going to stay in and watch movies or something. That's fine. We'll get through this. We'll survive. But now that it's grinding on for so long, I think people are realizing that you need to have a better plan, and that we're putting on weight and that we're getting pale and puffy and unhealthy, and we need a different way of going about this. And so I think it's important to recognize that, like, going after escapism is perfectly natural and perfectly okay
Uh-huh.
if you limit that, but you've got to start working on yourself, and there are ways to channel this being uncomfortable into positive behaviors, positive habits. Like one thing that helps me more than anything else is going and running up the mountain here, just sprinting. It's hard. We're at 8,000 feet. It's dry. It's hard to breathe, and I really gas myself out. I go as hard as I
Uh-huh.
can, and I feel better every time when I come back. Before I
Yeah,
go, I'm
it's something
frustrated.
that it's like you know what you are capable of, right?
Yeah,
When you do
and you,
something like that. I practice powerlifting. Uh,
yeah,
uh, yeah, I am. Here, I was like everybody. I was not training the way I used to. And about 1 month or 45 days ago, I started training again. I'm
yeah,
feeling so much better because
good.
I'm challenging myself. When you challenge and you know what you are capable of, the other things, I said, oh, okay, I can deal with that. I can do that. I
Yes,
can deal with the other things. So I think that is a kind of changing your mindset. And there's another problem also. I don't know if in America it's the same way. Here, we don't listen of the authorities or the health authorities saying, oh, you should taking care of your immunity. So you don't eat too much, go outside, have a sunbath, something like that. They just say, stay home, stay home, stay home. And don't give any other options for the people to see that there is something else I can do. No, you can't do anything, stay home, just that.
Right.
And we know that it is not that way, right?
Well, even if you just look at children and screen time, before, like, go back a year ago, and we were all talking about how detrimental screen time is for kids, and now they're all, by law, necessitated to be staring into lamps, staring into screens, being recorded, which is very stressful psychologically, all day long, every single day. And if they don't, then there are consequences, and they're all, you know, essentially locked inside. And the idea that health is locking yourself down, staying away from other people, socially isolating, and wearing masks to cover your face, that is not health. And those should be extremely temporary and targeted actions. And the fact that they're all dragging on, it's everywhere, and it's almost nonsensical, is deeply unsettling. And I think a lot of people just kind of feel that we don't know what to do with it. We want to help make other people feel comfortable, but we also don't want to play along with some of the really gnarly stuff that's going on, whether we see it or not. You know, there are a lot of agendas that are playing out, and it's rough. It's rough to be in the middle of that, no matter where you are.
Yeah, and it's just a little bit strange, I think, because every time here, it's happening that way, and I think it's happening with you too. Every time you try to warn people that they are doing wrong, we suffer something like a censorship.
Yeah, big time, right? Big time. Yeah. Well, you thought I disappeared, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people thought I disappeared.
That, my post was against health. What? I am a health agent. How can you say that? And it's happening, the shadow ban.
Yeah.
Is it helping you too?
Big time. I mean, we got hit very hard. Google basically turned off. We got millions of visitors. The Wild Diet, the name of my book and our program, was a number 6, number 7 Google trend in all of Google and diet. Wow. And then they turned us off. And then boop, it's like you couldn't find us anymore. Same thing on social media, where we can, to some degree, still reach some of the people who are subscribed to us or resubscribed to us, but a lot of people have been unsubscribed. It's almost impossible to reach anyone new. What's really funny is when I started commenting back with you, is that was the first time that I started getting new followers in a long time. So now I just have like this army of Brazilians, nutritionists, dietitians, physicians down in Brazil. And that's like where all of the growth is coming from in our channel. So it's really, it's interesting because it's sly and it's sneaky. Yeah, but after talking to enough of my peers, having our Wikipedia pages removed and deleted like they never existed, having other things just disappear, posts are never seen. It's happening to enough people that we'll never forget, and they'll never get our trust back, either, these platforms. And as soon as there's an alternative where we can really connect with each other, we'll go. You know, I hope that someone eats their lunch. Working on it, you know, not really. The closest alternative I have is one-to-one communication, you know, essentially like we're having now, whether it's recorded or not, but mostly just virtually interacting and socializing with other people, because I see socializing also as a nutrient in a way. It's something that's essential to our health. It's something that we all need, and you can't get everything you need from virtual connection, but you can get a lot. I've never connected with so many people across the world, old friends, new friends, and that's really important to recognize too, that yes, there are shadowy forces doing mysterious things that seem to be against our health. You know, like the fact that you would bury a bunch of people in health who do this as their vocation before you bury the flat earthers and like some of the like just legitimately ridiculous conspiracy theories out there. I mean, like, that's not what we talk. You've listened to my show for a long time, right? Like, we're pretty level-headed about this. We ask questions, yes. I think it's important that we're able to ask questions, but it's important that we all connect to the degree that we can. And as soon as there's an alternative where we really feel free to express our opinions and not bite our tongues, and we can be there with friends and family, and our messages aren't co-opted and we're not marketed to and manipulated. As soon as that exists, we'll go there, and all these other platforms that have been treating us like this will go the way of MySpace and Friendster and Napster and all the other ones you don't know about.
I'm anxious for this day to find somewhere where we can be ourselves, because we are not doing anything wrong. We are not doing anything to make something bad to people. We are, as you said, we are not conspiracy theories or nothing like that. Just trying to help, just trying to educate. But I think that people that are undereducated is good for the system.
Exactly.
Right?
And we're seeing that play out too, where they're being, or at least the narratives in history books and in education in America are changing right now. They're trying to, literally change history that kids are being taught. Not that I learned the correct history or anyone before me did either, but that's something that we should view with a degree of suspicion. And suspicion is very unpopular right now. You're not allowed to be suspicious. You're not allowed to question anything. And that's really dangerous.
Yeah, that's what happened here. But we can help people. For example, I know that you talk a lot about exercise. At that time in 2014, I was not an athlete. I wasn't.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I used to do anything. I was just a mother, just that. And a doctor. I used to work, and I was a surgeon at that time, so it was just hospital, home, and I wouldn't do anything at that time. And then I started about 2016, and I think that nowadays we have another way to look to exercise. Exercise is a form of longevity too, not just living more, but just living better. Right?
Yeah.
What changes when we are talking about exercise, not just to be fit, but to be not old, but to have a good number of years to live with a high quality of life? What do you think is the difference between just to stay fit or to stay healthy?
Well, a lot of people assume that it's about vanity or being fit or looking a certain way. And, it's not about that. There's a piece for everyone. It's important. It's a sign of respect to kind of keep yourself together, right? And the longer that, having gone through a few things in our lives that were really challenging, you start to realize that health is a survival skill. Health is something that your business performance and financial health depends on, because if you lose your physical health, you're not able to work, then the rest of your life falls apart, right? Mm-hmm. If you get a terminal disease or a serious disease before you expect to, that's also a serious road bump. So a lot of people, unfortunately, come to this because they went through something extremely dangerous, almost died, and they're like, oh, health is a survival skill. I need to get this down if I want to live. What most people don't realize is that's true for all of us, right? Yeah. That's true for all of us all the time. If you've been through something like that, maybe you feel it a little bit more, but it's true for all of us. So there are different ways to think about this. But for me, I think of, my wife is 5'3". She's significantly smaller than me and quite trim and small. We've moved so many times. We lived on the road, and I've had to carry so many things up and down stairs, over obstacles. Like, my physical fitness and strength, the ability to carry things and move quickly and get out of, like, our truck broke down in the middle of a desert and the emergency brake stuck. There was just nothing we could do. And I had to hike down without water for miles, just like literally through the desert, like you'd see in a movie. And if I were overweight, if I had disease, if I weren't physically fit, then I wouldn't have been able to do that. And if I hadn't been able to do that, then what would have happened, right? So I see it as a responsibility. But one thing that I read recently, and I'm having an interview later today about some of this, is that just the visual of marbled meat. This is what happens when you don't exercise. To humans. This is what happens when you break your arm and you get a cast put on. Your muscles start to get ripples of fat through them. You have marbled meat. So if you are sedentary, or if you allow aging to get to you, because what aging is to a large degree is the loss of muscle size and strength and bone strength as well. If you allow that to happen, you're becoming a piece of marbled meat, literally. And for me, that's just like kind of the creepiest, most uncomfortable thing that I'll happily work out every day if that's what it takes. You know?
Yeah, me too. Especially because I am 45. And
wow.
I'm 45, and I'm beginning to enter that time that women don't like, you know, menopause.
Sure.
And everything changes. Your fit, it's not that easy anymore. So you have to keep on straight ahead, not change it too much your way, because it's going to be much more difficult to go back. So I have to be very, very demanding with myself, you know, not relaxing too much. Yeah, because
which means creating muscle. That's the hedge, right? That's the thing that's the one weapon you can really use to protect yourself against aging and against losing your strength and vitality. So
to prevent aging, do you think that putting on muscles is the way you do that, right?
Yeah, 100%. You know, and also it's not just having muscles, but also having the ability to move. Like if you look at indigenous cultures or even animal groups of animals, it's the ones that can't outrun the predator anymore that get eaten. They're out of sync with nature. Yeah. You know, they're kind of like ready to go in the ecosystem. So if you maintain your ability to do a proper sprint, to lift your own body weight if you can, I mean, that's pretty aggressive, but like that's a goal that I'd love to keep, because like going down to when my wife and I visited Peru, some of the people in their 80s or 90s up at that elevation are just, you know, climbing up and down like it's nothing, even though they're 90 years old. So I want to be able to be trim and sly and have old man strength. You know, when I'm coming up on 90, that's my goal. And the people who I've seen age very gracefully and age well, every single one of them has to some degree maintained their muscle and maintained their physical fitness, even if it's just walking and a little bit of resistance or strength training, a little bit of lifting.
I like resistance training, but you can do this with your body weight. You don't have actually to lift weights. You can do just begin with something, right? Just begin with something. Don't think that I can do this anymore, I'm too old or something like that. There is always a way you can do that. And what do you think, Abel? I don't want to take your time too much, but what do you think about fasting? We are changing the way we do fasting, right? What do you think about that?
I've been a fan of fasting for almost a decade now. I started off by pushing breakfast out until around noon, and then my last meal would be 6 or 7 p.m. So I was doing like a 16-8 intermittent fast, or an eating window of around 6 hours. And then the longer that I did that, the easier it became to do even longer fasts. Like I started following my hunger, and I don't eat until I'm hungry typically. And that's another thing. It's like once you're experienced in fasting a little bit, your idea of what hunger is changes a bit. You start to recognize what hunger is versus boredom versus just like I'm low in energy or I didn't sleep well last night or whatever it is. But so anyway, for the past 7 or 8 years, I've been doing like 1.5 meals a day, where I'll start eating around 3 or 4, maybe even 5 or 6, and then have one substantial meal with a snack at the beginning or a snack at the end. I don't really consider it a snack as much as just I'm eating now. I'm in my feeding window. And when you do it that way, for me, it really simplifies things from a lifestyle perspective, because it trains your body to some degree to go without food. And there are different types of training. When I was in my 20s and younger, especially, we're trained to think that we should go after ultimate performance, whatever that biggest weight is, whatever that fastest speed is what you're after. But now, you know, especially in my 30s, I started thinking of, what about longevity? What's going to allow you to do this for a long time? And also, like, what are the alternate ways of training? And so for me, now I train fasted almost every single time. And I'm not counting a slash.
I like to do that, to train fasted.
Yeah, totally.
In fact, I can do it better when I'm fasting.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I train better. I train better if I go without eating. Yeah, I feel better. I know, you know that maybe it's also because when we are trying to digest something, a great part of your blood goes to the abdominal veins to try to digest and also to absorb what you are trying to digest. If you go without eating, you have all this blood to feel all the places, your brain, your lungs, and your heart. So I think it becomes easier. The more you do that, it becomes easier. Of course, you have to train that. You can't do this if you never did in your life. If you try to do that, you are going to not work very well, or maybe feel bad. But as you train, it becomes easier to do that. And when I talk about, for example, a meal, for me, meal is a meal. It doesn't matter if it's breakfast or if it's lunch or dinner. I eat the same thing. I don't know if you see my stories. I put what I'm going to eat for breakfast, for example, when I'm eating. And most of the times are vegetables and a source of protein. It's going to be beef or chicken or pork or something like that. I don't mind. It's something that it's a meal. And people are too much stuck with breakfast I have to eat my bread or pancakes or something that is full of carbs, bad carbs. And when you tell them that you can't be without breakfast. They say, I'm gonna feel bad, and it's something that you have to train yourself to do.
Yeah, and also, like, I try to train when I'm tired. You know, I don't go after the performance, right? Like, when I do my run, it's in like the highest heat of the day usually, and it's getting on to 3-4 p.m. or whatever, and then I just gas myself out. Similar with lifting weights. I do it later in the day. I'm out of energy, supposedly. But when you tap into those energy stores, you can go a lot longer. You can do a lot differently. If you're always gooed up running marathons, if you're always chugging Gatorade and topping up your glycogen and your sugar, like, you might be faster, but you're sacrificing your immune system, right? You're sacrificing your long-term health to some degree. And training tired is real life. You know what I mean? Because when you actually need to use these skills, when you actually need to lift something heavy, you don't want to. You're not wearing your workout clothes. You're like, your truck just broke down. You know, like there's been an accident, or you need to move, you know? And so training for when you're tired as the goal kind of reframes it from being hard to being the goal. Like, that's kind of the point, right? But to your point, don't do don't run up a mountain fasted at elevation in a desert. Like, don't start there. You have to do this one step at a time, you know, and once your body kind of adapts to that, you're capable of incredible things.
So you push a little bit harder. You do something, it's okay. Are you comfortable with that? So you push a little bit harder. And then a step at a time. A step at a time. You're going climbing these stairs, just very comfortable. But you can do that no matter what age you are. Just start from what you're doing, just a little bit every day. Do you have any kind of advice for us now about how to manage what we are doing with our health during the pandemic?
Yeah, don't think of health as not being sick. Think of health
I love that.
as
I love that.
being vital. Think of health as not avoiding things, and being fearful and anxious are some of the worst things that could ever happen to your health from a psychological point of view anyway. It takes its toll. So look at the things that you can do. There are many things that are out of our control, and at some point we need to say no. We need to, do whatever we need to do to make sure that we have a positive future. But there are so many things that you can do from home. Body weight exercises, cleaning up your diet, trying a fast for the first time. If you're not able to go out and do a ton of exercise like you used to, or if you're not able to go to the gym, then maybe try a 3-day fast with just water, see how your body responds safely, of course, hopefully with a physician or someone you can work with, but try the other thing that you haven't done before. Challenge yourself. For me, it's always about, my darkest times are when I feel like I'm not growing, when I feel like I'm just there, even if it's successful or whatever. I get really bummed out when I feel like I'm just not moving anymore. So even whether it's sketching, drawing, learning to dance, fasting, weightlifting for the first time, try something new. Be bad at it because no one's watching. Be bad at home. Lock yourself in. Be bad at a bunch of stuff and try it, because that's how you're going to grow out of this.
Excellent. Abel, I'm so honored that you accepted to talk to me. Thank you very much. You inspire me, and I wish you can inspire a lot of people. Continue to inspire more people every day. If you need me, I'm here. I'm going to spread your word. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I look forward to our next chat. I'm sure this is the first of many.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.